So the town I grew up in is a small town called Dumont, New Jersey. Everybody sees successful people, and especially with all the fraud going on, you see successful people, but you don't realize where they started, where they came from. It's easy to watch and idolize people on YouTube and be like, oh wow, yeah, this guy's got all these Ferraris and Bugattis and you name it. But that doesn't mean they just didn't start out as a rich person. To listen to advice from somebody who's never had to go through anything, never had to create wealth, always had, oh yeah, like my parents gave me 10 million bucks. Now I'm a successful real estate developer. Well, great. Not everybody has that, and I understand that. So that's why I think it's important to share my background with everybody and just put into context where I came from, where I am, and give a little bit of advice that may have a little bit extra weight. A lot of people just see the result, right? They just see somebody who appears to be wealthy, who has a good life, and they're like, I want to be there immediately. But it doesn't work like that. Just outside of New York City, Dumont, New Jersey is where I grew up. It is in Bergen County. It, I would say, is a middle-class neighborhood. I did not always grow up in Dumont, New Jersey. I initially, when I was very young, until the age of 5, I lived in a town called New Milford, which is right next to Dumont. I'm bringing you on this journey as to where I came from, how I grew up, to sort of provide context as to starting with nothing and then ending up with something. I am not, by my definition, wealthy. For me to be wealthy, you have to be able to sustain a lifestyle that you're comfortable with without having to work. When I stop working, my lifestyle goes like this. When I was like 21, when I first even found out what net worth was, I was living in the downstairs of my parents' house and looking at a jar of change and realizing and having the realization that that was my net worth. I don't have any trust funds, I don't have any savings accounts, I don't have anything of value. My hockey equipment is worth nothing. My ice skates are worth nothing. My baseball cards in my head were worth something, but in actuality they're worth nothing. So I had a net worth of zero, of a jar of change next to my bed, which, do the math, it could be anywhere of 150 to 200 bucks if you're lucky. So I effectively had a negative net worth. I was able to turn that into a positive net worth with a nice house, a garage full of cars, a couple of businesses. This is not overnight. This is over the course of 20 years, and I think that's important for people to realize. So here we are in New Milford, New Jersey. Here in Dorchester Manor is where my first apartment was. My dad grew up in New Milford, my mom grew up in Dumont, and my apartment was one of these. I think it was right over here. My parents then were able to save up money and buy a piece of property, which is a quarter of, maybe less than a quarter of an acre. It's a 50 by 100 lot in Dumont. And they were able to build a house, and they did this in 1985. I'm doing like the where I grew up video. It's funny, over here, there used to be like a big fluffy bush, like legitimately like right here. And it was sort of, or maybe right here, it was on the property line. So it was like half of us, half of our neighbor. And I remember when I was learning to ride my bicycle, I would always stop by crashing into the bush. It's like a nice cushy landing spot. And this road, I was very happy when they repaved it ultimately. When I was younger, because we always would play, it's a dead end street, we'd always play hockey out here. And eventually they repaved it, and now it's back to where it was. I was very proud of my landscaping. I would cut the grass all the time. Funny enough, a long time ago, my grandmother used to live there. And this is the reason my parents bought this lot, because my mom grew up in that house. And then when this lot became available, she ended up buying this lot. This used to have a wire fence going in the back here. My grandmother passed recently, so the house was sold to somebody else who put up this big fence. And I always remember, and there was no parking, there was only a 2 driveway spot. And then when there was like all these kids living in the house and there was more and more cars, we always had to use my grandmother's driveway to park in the winter because there was no street parking in the winter over here. And I always remember walking through, because there was always like raccoons and everything back here. And I was so petrified of being like attacked by a raccoon that I'd like walk with like a knife or have my keys out to like get in a knife fight with a raccoon. I don't know, but that was something I remember. Coming from Nebraska, to think that you're so close to your neighbors, it's not a thing. But even here, this is a lot of space compared to like Jersey City, where the buildings, the side yard setbacks may be an inch, or like a 2-foot alleyway between the houses. So houses in this area, not even condos or apartments, stack up even tighter than this, where you have no yard. You have nothing that looks like grass. Everything is paved or concrete. I'll show you inside. Even the driveway, the pavers are new since the tree fell on the house last year. So, and they punched a hole in the driveway, so they had to redo the driveway anyway. And here, just for proof that I lived here, This is little Rob, who I don't think the bangs are a thing anymore. I'm trying to think if my son would look like me if he grew bangs. But I feel like I look a little bit more like my daughter, definitely in this one. I look like my son in this one here. I don't know, that's not even me. That's a stock photograph. He's too good looking to be me. I used to love this shirt. I thought I was so cool in that tie-dye shirt. Here I look like a mattress salesman. Now, just to qualify the neighborhood here, and it's just a completely different time. I used to walk to school this way. My primary school is at the K through 6, Lincoln School, right around the corner here. So you make a left here, I would say a quarter of a mile, maybe a little bit more. And as a 7-year-old or 8-year-old, 9-year-old, whatever it is, like I couldn't even fathom just pushing my kid and being like, all right, good luck, see you tomorrow, and sending them walking to school. That's what we did. You're talking a 7-minute walk for a little kid, which is plenty of time for bad things to happen now. So it's just, we're a completely different society. But most of my teenage years were spent on rollerblades. I would come over here, and Dumont didn't have its own rink. The Bergenfield rink was right here, and I used to rollerblade over here all the time and just play pickup hockey. I mean, I can't imagine how dilapidated this thing probably is now. But I mean, you're talking months of my life spent here. And it's like going to the old abandoned theme parks. It sucks. There's like one goal now, no upkeep. And it sucks. Like, kids should have a place to play. Now it's got Pornhub.com written on the wall. Sort of sad to watch this happen because I mean, I used to play here all the time, and now fast forward 20 years, I put a nice rink in my yard. Now you know what I did with my childhood. Instead of being a dope and throwing eggs at houses, played hockey. It was pretty harmless. Stayed out of trouble for the most part. I wasn't a big drinker. Definitely didn't. I had one drink with my friend Dan at his house before I went to college. So I drank nothing in high school except for one, and it was cognac of all things. He like got a bottle of cognac. So I had one drink, didn't like it. Fast forward, see how that worked out for me. I've got a whiskey sponsor. So like, it's great. Life has come full circle, but I was a pretty responsible kid. I worked at a golf course virtually every day. As soon as I was old enough to start earning money, I used my free time to either play hockey or go to the golf course. So I'd go work at the golf course in the morning, carry a loop, and then come play some hockey in the afternoon, sit down, watch TV, go to sleep, rinse and repeat for 5 years of my life, and then I started socializing a little bit more after that. But now I'm gonna go get a sandwich. Let's get out of here. Let's leave this dilapidated place. And I hope this gives sort of reasonable context as to where and how I grew up. It's just interesting to see into people's lives because people don't like to show you anything other than what they want you to see. And it's not that I'm ashamed of any part of my childhood. I was a loser. I like everybody. At the end of the day, that's who I was. I've made something of myself starting with nothing. And that, I think, is the important thing to take from this, is that you can go from here to here. You just have to make a lot of right decisions along the way. And the problem is when you're rich, you can make a lot of wrong decisions and still be rich. When you're not, you have to make a lot of right decisions, and one wrong decision drops you back significantly. So in that stair climb there, you have to make so many right decisions. You can afford to go back a couple of times and make some wrong decisions, but you have to keep plugging away to get up to where that guy is staying the entire time. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tour of New Milford, Dumont, where I grew up as a kid. From there, I moved out of my house when I was dating my now wife. We moved to Edgewater, New Jersey. We had a nice apartment there. After we got married in 2009, she got pregnant, planned pregnancy, 2011. We then rented a house, so we had a place to live while we were looking to build a house in a nicer neighborhood. Eventually, 5 years later, we found the property that I have recently purchased, and that turned into the house that I then built. So there is my timeline from birth right up until where I am now. Rob Ferretti from Bergenfield Rink in New Jersey. Thanks for watching. See you next time.